Hello and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Universe Podcast. Today we are finishing up Season 4 of the Clone Wars, Episodes 19, 20, 21, 22, as we tell you Tales from the Dark Side. All that and more after this commercial break we have no control over. Welcome back. I'm Matthew. I'm your host. Joining me as always for the Clone Wars is Riki Hayashi. However, unfortunately, Sarah is not feeling too well today, so it's just going to be Riki. But Riki, we have just a little bit to discuss. How are you feeling today as we get ready to dive into the Dark Side episodes?
It's okay. I have plenty to say about these.
Nice. Yeah, so as I've mentioned, we're really going into the Dark Side today. These are the episodes for those of you who either don't remember or haven't seen them before. We basically are following the adventures of first Ventress and then Savage Opress and Darth Maul, as we're getting a lot of examples of the dark side outside of the Sith. And I have to say, Riki, these are some of my favorite episodes of the Clone Wars because I just really love getting to... I feel like this really fills out the world in such a great way. You know, this isn't about the Clone War. It's not about... General Grievous is a part of it. Dooku's a part of it. Anakin shows up for a little bit. Obi-Wan sort of does. But this isn't the Jedi and the Sith. This is about a whole bunch of people who are... This is about a whole bunch of people who are connected to the dark side but doing their own thing.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, this is why I watched this series.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it was you recommending it and saying, hey, let's watch these together and talk about them. But it was really when we saw the movie Solo, and at the end of that, we get the surprise. I mean, to me, it was a surprise that Darth Maul was still alive in that era after getting cut in half at the end of The Phantom Menace. And I had no idea. I had never watched the Clone Wars. I had not really read that much about that era in the books. So this came as a big surprise at the end of that movie. And I was so excited. What? What's going on? What? And I just kind of lost it after I came out of that movie. And then come to find out, he becomes a prominent villain in this series starting right here. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is how we get him. And I think this is one of the best season enders we've gotten, because it ends with Savage Opress and Darth Maul reunited. Darth Maul sort of back. They've had a confrontation with Obi-Wan, and they didn't kill Obi-Wan, but they survived, and now they're going to go off and just, maniacally laugh and do their mischief. And it's just such a great setup for what comes next.
Yeah, I mean, this is an actual season ender, right?
Yeah.
I think some of the early seasons just had, an episode, and it's that's the end of the season. Season 1 ended with Cad Bane getting Zero the Hutt out of prison, but it's not like the next season then followed up on that. Zero was out there and we get a story with them later, but this is a real kind of cliffhanger and makes you excited for the next season. You can't wait. Back in the day, well, now again we have kind of TV seasons again with streaming. You have to wait, right? It's 6 months. Oh no, what am I going to do?
Listen, I'm counting the hours till the next WandaVision episode comes out, so I know what this is like, and I remember that when you had to wait 6 months instead of just 6 days. So
yeah,
and we're going to definitely go ahead.
I was going to say every time Cobra Kai comes out with a new season, we binge it, and I just dang it, I can't wait.
Yeah, no, I get that. Well, and I think what I like so much about this set of 4 episodes is, you're right, we end with the 2-parter about Savage and Darth Maul, and it's fantastic. But even before we get there, we get a 2-parter about Ventress. It's really 2 different episodes, just that it's tied together by about her kind of trying to find herself in the post-Dooku era, for her, I mean. But I do love that we get all 4 of these together, because I feel like there's just this... To me, it's so interesting seeing these different characters who are not friends, they're very much antagonists, but it's basically 4 episodes of dark side users who want nothing to do with Dooku, nothing to do with Sidious, but are still very much part of the dark side, figuring out where they're going to go. And I just love that connection and that thread between the 4 of them.
Yeah, this was, the previous set we talked about the fall of Anakin, right? We commented that it seemed like a movie, like a better version of Revenge of the Sith. And this set of 4 also is like a little miniature movie. You called it, I think, Tales of the Dark Side.
Yeah. Well, and so let me give just a quick plot summary of the 4 of them, and then let's talk about some of that larger themes, and then we'll dive into the specifics. So we pick up pretty soon after what had happened a bunch of episodes ago, where Ventress has left Count Dooku. Count Dooku betrayed her, tried to kill her. She tries to kill him back. She goes to the Night Sisters. They come up with a plot to assassinate Dooku. It fails. So now Dooku wants revenge. He wants to protect himself. He's launching this grand attack against the Night Sisters. Ventress has rejoined them. There's a big epic battle, and most of the Night Sisters are killed. Ventress escapes, and Mother Talzin, the leader of the Night Sisters, she also escapes. We then have Asajj in our next episode become a bounty hunter. It turns out that in this universe, bounty hunter pretty much just means criminal for hire. And we get what's basically just a really good heist movie episode where known criminal mastermind Boba Fett is leading a fun little gang. And it's, a fun episode about Asajj kind of continuing to find herself. We then switch to Savage and what Savage is doing. And Savage on his quest to find Darth Maul. And he goes through all sorts of adventures. He eventually finds Darth Maul in what is a clear allusion to Lord of the Rings and Shelob the spider. It's a great scene that we'll get to in a second. And then he and Darth Maul are reunited. They challenge Obi-Wan. And in a great way of tying it all together, Ventress winds up also being there. And in one of the best, strange bedfellows moment, Obi-Wan and Ventress wind up having a fight where they're using both their snark and their lightsabers to fight Maul and Oppress. The 4 of them fight, everyone gets away, and curtain. Does that kind of give a pretty good summary of what we had for these 4 episodes?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what do you think we learn about the dark side in these 4 episodes? For so much of the story, the dark side is Palpatine and Sidious. Palpatine and Dooku, Sidious and Tyrannus, and then Vader and some of the others. What was your kind of take on getting to see so much of the dark side outside of the Sith?
So I really like the Maul scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, they emphasized, hate and anger.
Yep.
Are the fuel of the dark side fire.
Mm-hmm.
And he really embodies those emotions so well and feeds off of it and even encourages it in Obi-Wan. Mm-hmm. And we see Obi-Wan falter in battle because of the influence of the dark side.
Definitely.
The Night Sister stuff is a little weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the voodoo angles, and I'm not really sure how to feel about that. It's a different take on the dark side, and I think that in itself is good. Right. But I'm not sure if it's a respectful portrayal of
fair.
This different religion.
Yeah. You mean in that? I mean, it certainly does, there's no direct connection, but because they have kind of Eastern European accents, that it seems to be kind of allusions to Romani kind of ideas. Is that the concern?
Well, there's that, which we've talked about in the past, but there's also, I am not an expert on it, but literally they use, a voodoo doll to hurt Dooku. Yeah.
It is definitely a sign of, once again, them kind of... I think inventing entirely new cultures and religions is always a difficult thing, but the Clone Wars is pretty quick to draw upon established things and just kind of give it a quick, rub off the serial numbers to make it a Star Wars thing. And I think it's a good point. I hadn't even picked up on the voodoo thing. I was mostly noticing the kind of, the Eastern European witch type trope they fall into.
And the zombies as well. I believe we've talked about in the past that the zombies actually do come from this voodoo religion, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, the Voodoo idea of Caribbean. I think I really like a lot of the Night Sisters, though. In that, I think what I like is that they're, to me, I'm trying to think how to best describe it, because it's not quite different kinds of neutral or chaotic evil D&D style, but it's something similar. If the Sith are ambition, the Night Sisters seem to be much more isolationist. they're evil in that they have absolutely no qualms killing people who get in their way. They have absolutely no qualms, enslaving the other people of Dathomir to do what they think is important. But they're pretty happy just to be left alone. They don't seem to have all this, like, go out into the world and conquer. And I think I really liked seeing that side of the dark side. That it doesn't have to be the quest for ultimate power and the maniacal laugh and the mustache twirling. That you could have a bunch of dark side users who are just kind of like, don't come here, because if you come here, we're going to end you, and we're going to do it in all sorts of dirty, terrible ways. But other than that, we're happy just to lead our own lives.
Well, I think that Sidious embodies the notion of political power.
Right.
Like a pursuit of political power and basically dominating other people and cultures. And the Night Sisters, their power is more, literally like over life and death. Right.
Yeah, and there's just a general, like, they're able to literally bring the dead back to life with the kind of zombie army that they have. All the kind of other crazy things they're doing. They literally created Sauvage Press, and I think the implication is supposed to be, and actually, no, I know this is true, from the book Darth Plagueis, they created Darth Maul as well. There's a scene in the novel Darth Plagueis where young Palpatine meets with the Night Sisters, and they give him this infant named Maul to raise as a young, as a dark side user. So yeah, you're right. They have a real power there, and I don't know if this has been explored in the books at all. And listeners, if you do, please write in and let us know. I'm curious if this relationship between the Night Sisters and the Sith goes back. Like, have there been other Night brothers who have become Sith like Darth Maul did, or was that just a first time thing? I don't know enough about that, but I'm very curious.
Oh, and what you were saying about creating Oppress. When they bring Maul back to Talzin, she also reconstructs him with her magics. Gives him new legs, fixes his memory problems.
What do you think is her motivation here? Because she's obviously very much on the side of Ventress as well. Ventress is now a Night Sister. Mother Talzin's basically willing to let all the rest of the Night Sisters die in order to help, save Ventress. But she's also helping Oppress and Maul, who are not friends with Ventress. Is she just kind of like, I'm going to help anybody and I hope my children don't fight with each other? Is she kind of intentionally playing them off against each other? What do you think Mother Talzin's angle is with all this?
I think ultimately she's trying to stop Sidious.
Right.
Right, because that's what ties all these elements. They sent Ventress to be Dooku's apprentice and basically spy. They did the same with Sauvage, and then tries to use both of them in various ways to take out Dooku and ultimately Sidious. So I think she probably sees Sidious as an existential threat because she probably understands that he's going to stop at nothing for this political power, meaning he to do that he's going to have to take out other Force users. Maybe she knows that about the plan to take out the Jedi and figures like if he's going to take out the Jedi, he's going to take us out too eventually.
Right. We're not going to be able to just kind of live and let live the way we always have. He's going to come for Dathomir at some point. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I don't think she has she doesn't have the political ambitions. I think ultimately she wants to have this control over life and death and enhance her own power to do that, but not with any kind of political end to that.
Right. She's happy just to be here on Dathomir with her Night Sisters and the Night Brothers and just let it be and not do anything more than that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, Ventress is there. We get this great battle. I have to say, we had battle droids, but I don't think the phrase Roger, Roger got uttered. And certainly it was a pretty fun battle to watch with the Night Sisters having their kind of laser bows and arrows and things like that.
They said it. They said it, Matthew.
Did they say Roger, Roger? Okay.
Yeah. I caught it. It was. Okay. I think it was the driver of the tank, the defoliator tank.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Even if they do, though, I thought overall it was a good battle. I did feel though, and I'm curious, maybe you were not feeling this as much, especially because you didn't were not as fond of them as I was. It felt like they introduced this really interesting set of characters in the Night Sisters, and we'd met them once or twice before, but we hadn't, like, Ventress joins them, and I'm like, okay, great, we're gonna get a whole bunch of episodes about Ventress and the Night Sisters, and then they all get wiped out. Did that seem kind of fast to you?
It did. Certainly wish we could have had time to learn their names.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah, but so it's a fun battle scene. They get wiped out, and then we get to a heist movie. What? And here I do wish Sarah was here, because I know Sarah loves a good heist as well. But what was your take on what I refer to as the Boba Fett heist, and Ventress kind of getting wrapped up with this merry, as one of them actually describes it, join our merry band of bounty hunters.
Why is it always a train? Right? Firefly, I think the pilot maybe, or the second episode, they have a train
job.
Yeah. And then in Solo, it's a train.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And
do you think it's all just like homages to like the westerns of like the cowboys robbing trains in the 1800s?
Maybe. And there's something compelling about the train as a vehicle because it keeps going.
Right.
Right. Like
we've seen going. It makes for very narrow fights, because it's all this sort of very compressed area, and so there's a lot of kind of like moving with your surroundings. That makes for interesting fighting.
Yeah, and like I'm a big fan of the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Me too.
And
Me too.
They're always having heists, but it's like a big rig truck, and oftentimes you can just like get the truck to stop.
Right.
But you can't really stop the train. I mean, you could, but it's just an interesting set piece, I think.
Yeah.
And in terms of like this episode in general, I thought it was probably the weakest in the set, even though I appreciated Ventress's growth as a character a lot in this one.
Well, and describe it. I didn't go too much into it. So what does Ventress go through in this episode?
Well, I don't want to say face. I mean, she's still evil, but she grows a conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that's fair.
So the point of this episode was that Boba Fett's group is guarding a package to be delivered to the lord of this planet. And they have to do it via train because technobabble, something about the atmosphere, you can't fly.
Right.
And they have to protect it from this group of bandits that they know is going to come after this package. And it's this big chest, ornate chest. And during course of the battle with the bandits, the chest is knocked over to reveal that there's a woman inside. I mean, a girl, really.
Really, girl, yeah, young girl.
And she is not she's a captive. She's a slave. She's not a willing participant to this. And Ventress sees this, and we don't actually get a flashback, but it causes her to remember her own past, where she was taken from, her family. And so she turns on Boba Fett and ends up saving the girl, delivering her to her brother, who's the leader of the bandits, and betraying the Lord. Even though, so she delivers the chest with Boba tied up inside. Yeah, still collects the bounty. I don't know why they call it a bounty, because it's not.
Yeah, like I said, bounty hunter. This just seems to be like general criminal.
But she collects the payment and then like skedaddles before they open it up and find Boba. And then she collects twice. She actually doesn't immediately hand over the sister. She says, "You have to pay me," to the bandits. So she collects basically double on this job.
The bandits are led by her. Is it her brother or someone she's in love with? I think it's her brother.
It's her brother.
Right.
Yeah, and then so she does the right thing, but still like turns a hefty profit off it, and then leaves.
Wrestling turns better than I do, but to me, this isn't quite a face turn, but it's sort of that like, I'm no longer like the villain. I'm now more like an antagonist with shades of anti-hero.
Yeah, like, this is when basically like Vince McMahon is the ultimate evil in wrestling. So you can still kind of be a heel character and do underhanded things, but if you are going against Vince McMahon, you still go over, and people love you, even as a heel.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, A, because I think it's just an interesting part of her growth. And again, it helps solidify like that it's not just the Jedi and the Sith, that there's all sorts of different entities and groups and people who can have their own agendas. But also because, and her involvement is small, but because later she does fight with Obi-Wan against Savage and Oppress, against Savage and Maul. I don't think I would have bought it if it wasn't for this. Like, I felt like her growth here really helps to set up where she gets to in the next couple episodes.
Right, and it also sets up her career arc as a bounty hunter.
Right. I think I agree with you. It's probably of the 4 episodes the weakest, but I do like quite a lot of it. It also has some great lines. I quoted, "Join our merry band of bounty hunters." I will also say someone goes over and flirts with Ventress at a bar by using the age-old line,
"Oh, God.
What's a pretty bald babe like you doing in a desert like this?" And what I love is she just like lightsaber stabs him, and people like look at her, and she just was like, I didn't feel talkative, and they're like, okay, cool, move along. Which, for people who get overly handsy in a bar, it's it's a good policy. But like I just thought a lot of the episode was really funny that way. Like, it was just a couple of great moments.
And just like, so to go back to Boba and his band, he's with Bosk because Bosk is kind of like his uncle / father figure.
He seems to be, yeah. Bosk works for him, but Bosk is also, he's kind of like being like a sergeant, like a battle-weary sergeant to like the new lieutenant who's fresh out of the cadet school. Like, Boba's in charge, but Boss is like guiding him.
Yeah. We get to see young Dengar. Dengar is another one of the bounty hunters who was on the bridge in Empire Strikes Back. He's the guy who's like wrapped up in like desert gear, almost like he's got like a towel.
Right, he doesn't look like a Tusken Raider, but it's close. It's that same kind of idea.
And so the disappointing thing for me was that Enbo, the hat bounty hunter, the guy who throws his metallic hat, like walks out of the place where Boba is hanging out at the beginning as Ventress and Bosk are coming in. So I thought Embo was part of the gang, and then he just like walks out for no reason. And then like in the next episode as well, like he's hanging out in the background, which I like. I like that you can recognize background characters, but it's like, why isn't he part of this gang?
Maybe not everybody wants to work for the 12-year-old kid.
That's true.
I will say I thought with Boba, it's funny, at one point I was kind of like looked away for a second, and then I looked back and I saw, wait, is that a clone? It looks too young. And I realized, no, of course, that it's Boba Fett. And the fact that they're making Boba Fett look like that effectively, a young version of the clones that we've seen so many of. You think of Boba Fett as this totally different character. It's easy to forget he's one more of the clones. So I thought that was just a great bit of animation.
And sound like them, kind of. Like, the accents seem to come and go.
Yeah.
At times.
I can understand that.
One of those Robin Hood Prince
Let's
of
now
Thieves.
get to our touching story of brotherly love. So first of all, how much do you love the worm?
Not very much. Sarah liked him a lot.
Okay. I like, there's a cute worm friend who, well, so here's my question. The story Darth Maul, Savage Opress finds his way to this planet where Maul is, and he meets up with this kind of talking snake worm-like creature who's trying to be very like slithery, like I'll tempt you, but then Opress is just like, no, I'm going to kill you, or you're going to do the thing, and the worm is like, yeah, sure, I'm going to help you. But it turns out that the worm does not want to help Opress. He just wants to like deliver him to the worm's master. And it's a very much a like, Lord of the Rings, Golem delivering the hobbits to Shelob in the under the mountain and the tunnels thing. What I don't get is it's clear that, once we really look at the beast that the worm is serving, that it is Darth Maul's head on the body of a huge spider, which is exactly what Savage said he was looking for. Did the worm, like, the worm says he's betraying the guy when really he's actually helping him? Does he just have no idea what's going on? What the hell happened there?
No, he doesn't. He wants leftovers, right? So
right.
I guess Maul eats people? I don't know.
he just hasn't really paid any attention to what it is that he's serving in terms of this big spider thing, and that it is exactly what Sauvage is describing.
Oh, you mean he looks like me, my brother looks like me, sure.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't a big deal, and I did like the Lord of the Rings Shelob sort of pickup thing there, but it is kind of a great scene, I thought, because at first you just see that it's a spider, and then it's only sort of like through shadow, and then you eventually pick up on the fact that it's Darth Maul's head and body attached to the rest of a spider. And I thought that was very well done.
It was filmed like a horror movie. I say filmed, drawn, I don't know.
Right.
Directed like a horror movie with the skittering in the background and barely being able to see in the shadows.
Mm-hmm. And I thought they did such a good job of, Maul is terrifying, but you also tell that he's terrified. He's deeply mentally unbalanced. He's all over the place. And I almost felt sorry for him for a few moments. Like, you can just tell he just has... Do they actually explain how it is that his body winds up being grafted to this spider? Is that some dark side magic thing he did? Did someone else do it? I didn't catch if that was explained.
Not in the episode. I'm sure there's a comic book.
Right.
Or something.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
I want to talk real quick about this planet.
Yeah, go for it.
This planet is amazing. It's like a junkyard planet. Like at least where Sauvage lands, everything is like mountains of junk, like metallic junk. And then there are these robots, droids, I guess. I don't even know what they are. But they walk around like dinosaurs on 4 legs, and they just like eat the junk and breathe fire. They're like melting the junk. Maybe that's their purpose. That's what they're there for, is to like melt all this stuff. It's
the most badass disposal droids you've ever seen.
Yeah. And then there are these, what do they call them? Like the Junkers, I guess. Mm-hmm. There's a nomadic group living here. I don't know doing what, but they are dressed in a really interesting way. And it was just, I can't even think of like what it was evocative of, but like several different properties of this kind of like almost nightmarish, but kind of cute. Like, I thought the Junkers were meant to be kind of cute, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a very, like, you know what the whole thing reminded me of just a bit was in the MCU, we find it in Thor Ragnarok, the planet where all the trash that kind of gets lost in interdimensional travel winds up. Do you remember what I'm talking
about?
Yeah, like that. I sort of like, obviously this is much darker and like red and black instead of bright daylight, but that was definitely the direction I got from it.
So I haven't seen it, but there's a movie, I believe it's called 9. Is that what it's called? Right, an animated movie called 9, where it's the same kind of almost like Tim Burton aesthetic. I don't think it's actually Tim Burton, but that's the kind of aesthetic of like cute but kind of scary.
Right. Yeah. No, I think Tim Burton is a good way to describe it. And they definitely kind of, and it fits because, I mean, what is a better sort of example of the kind of like island of misfit toys, but in a very screwy way, than this like half man, half spider creature that is both a terrible danger to itself and to everybody else around it.
Yeah. And just, I think this planet would be a great level to play on a video game.
Yeah. I can totally see that. So we get to them kind of deciding, okay, now they're going to go get their revenge. And there's a part of me that, and this goes for like everything in like comic books, superheroes. If you challenge someone to a battle and they defeat you in battle, I don't quite get the like, they've terribly wronged me, I need revenge. That never, to me, you get revenge when someone like betrays you or something like that. But even putting that aside, like clearly they want revenge against Obi-Wan, and I do love their plan. He Maul says to a press, like, the way we get him, I want to make sure I get the exact line here. The way to get the attention of the Jedi is the slaughter of the innocent without mercy. And I mean, there's a part of me thinking, like, this is a kid's show and we're getting fairly dark now that we're at the end of season 4. But also, I just think it's so true, like, how do you do you get the Jedi attention? You start killing people because the Jedi, like, they have to come save them, and that's always the way to get their attention. And, you know, Obi-Wan has this talk with Yoda and the others, and they decide, like, yeah, he's got to go. It's the only option.
Yeah, I don't think this is a kid's show anymore. It's animated, but it's not a kid's show.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely getting into some interesting themes that are a lot more than just kid stuff, and I'm really liking that.
Yeah, so they lure Obi-Wan out there, and it's weird because Mace Windu says, hey, you should take an entire squad with you, which I agree with. He's like, no, we can't do that. He said, come alone. Which, no, when they say come alone, never go alone.
I mean, given what we've seen, if he takes 20 or 30 clone soldiers with him, will that accomplish anything except to get 20 or 30 clone soldiers killed? Like, do we have any reason to think that they're going to be of any help against two dark side wielding, like, you know, two dark side powered lightsaber using power guys?
Take some more Jedi.
Yeah.
And so in the last episode, Anakin and Ahsoka had like this little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It was very strange. I mean, I like it, but they were like investigating the diner where Savage like beat a bunch of people up.
Right.
And then you think that they're going to be on the tail and follow him. And like, no, that was it. They
Just
like
Obi-Wan.
investigated and like, oh, we lost the trail. Oh, well.
You know, it doesn't make much sense, and I get that, but it does allow us to have Obi-Wan and Ventress fighting together and being both super sassy and fighting, like with lightsabers.
Oh,
and honestly, it's such a good scene. I don't care how little sense it makes. Like, it's everything I wanted.
Obi-Wan is literally like at death's door. Maul has him in a chokehold and is holding his lightsaber up to him, and Obi-Wan quips at him and says, I like your new legs. They make you look taller. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Look,
like,
there was
those
no
could be your
animal
last words.
There was no animal he could ride, so he had to fall back on the other defining part of his personality.
It's amazing. Yeah, and then Ventress shows up and like does some more. Like, first makes fun of Savage and then makes fun of Maul. And they get all... Rrr.
Yeah. No, it's... And it's there's just a wonderful scene of the four of them all fighting together. One thing I really liked is that at some point Obi-Wan loses his lightsaber, so Ventress gives him one of hers. And so for the first time, we have four people fighting, all with red lightsabers. And I'm not much of an aesthetics guy, but I just found the visual of that to be really powerful, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, if you like lightsabers and the color red, I have a movie to recommend for you. It's called The Last Jedi. You might have heard about it. Once or twice.
I have some good strong feelings about it.
But yeah, that another great lightsaber duel.
Yep, all with red lightsabers.
We had another good one too in the first episode of this arc between Ventress and Grievous.
Right, and that's where Grievous has all four red and blue ones, while she has the blue and green ones, while she has the two red ones.
Yeah,
that was also a fun fight.
Although he just, so she tries to like make this agreement like we'll fight one on one, and if I win, you leave, and if you win, we'll surrender. And then she's about to win, and he just like orders his droids to start shooting at her.
Yeah, the idea that anyone would make sort of an honorable peace with Grievous is that's not the direction to go, my friends. That does not make sense. But yeah, I just found these episodes to be really satisfying. You know, I felt like it was great for Obi-Wan. It's nice to see Ventress like this. It makes me really curious about what's going to happen with Ventress going forward in later seasons. It just feels to me like I feel like so much more of my understanding of the world beyond the Republic and the Separatists, it really comes from these episodes and what it teaches us, especially about the dark side.
And the voice acting too. Of course, like Clancy Brown is as Opress is just one of the greatest animated voice actors. You know, right up there with our good friend Luke Skywalker.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that whole time that he's going after Maul, it's so interesting to me because, I mean, he is looking for his brother. And I keep flashing back to, remember, when he was first made into who he was, it's because Ventress went and, like, you know, picked him out and made him go through these battles during which he killed his actual brother. And so there's a real sort of power to me about him now saying, like, I have to find my brother, and someone he's never met. And so to me, it's just, I mean, we know how much brotherhood means to him, as well as how much that idea has been corrupted. And so I got chills just thinking about that the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't even thought about that he had killed his own brother, who had another, like, one of those names, right?
Right.
I can't remember right now. But then also, so the voice actor for Maul, Sam Witwer. Wow. Fantastic.
He does such a good job. The voice acting in general in this... No, I mean, there was a TikTok debate going back and forth about who's the better Obi-Wan in terms of, Ewan McGregor or Alec Guinness. And I had to chime in, well, they're both great, but James Arnold Taylor, the voice actor who plays him in the Clone Wars, also really good. I mean, just by now I feel like the directing and the acting, the voice acting has really hit its stride, and just every one of these characters I'm invested in, I care about, I want to know where their story goes.
Yeah, and to go back to Maul, I mean, the way that he goes from almost poetic, like Shakespearean poetry, to just fierce savageness, like he turns in a second, and I think that's part of the unhinged nature of the character right now.
Right.
But he has these like quiet moments, and then it just builds back up, and it's frightening.
It's why I like the interplay between him and Savage so much, because Savage rescues him. When they meet, Savage is much more powerful. But you can tell Savage also he's like scared of him, but also kind of hero worshipping him. And there's just this great dynamic. And it's one that, no spoilers, but we're going to get a lot more of that between the two of them going forward. And this sort of weird power imbalance between the two of them of Maul is like, Maul trained with the Sith. Maul knows things about the dark side that Oppress will never learn. Oppress was, with Dooku for a couple months maybe. But also, Oppress has been alive in the world for a much longer time. He hasn't been chopped in half by a Jedi.
Yeah, that reminds me that the timing of this at some points got a little confusing because it feels like a four-parter, like it all happens sequentially. But Ventress goes from betraying Boba Fett and his gang, and then the next time we see her, she's back in that bar. And seems to have, I mean, she has a costume change, and she seems to have established herself as a bounty hunter. So It really seemed like several months have passed, because she has a ship, too. She has her own ship. She's flying around. The other bounty hunters kind of like give her respect and space, like, oh, we don't want to mess with you.
That was the sense I got, was that that there's a couple of time jumps. One is for Ventress like that, but also that, after the Night Sisters are defeated and Dathomir falls, that's when Mother Talzin seeks out Savage and says, or no, wait. When did she? Because hadn't she already told Savage to go look for Darth Maul, or was that only here?
No, that was at the end of the arc where
that's right.
Savage and Ventress lose to Dooku. That's
right. Okay, so he had been sent on that mission a while ago. So yeah, I think you're right. It's not quite clear how the timelines play out, but I mean, this is the Clone Wars. There's no chronology that makes any sense.
At least we don't go backwards.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I feel like that's those are all the major points I wanted to hit on. I think just 4 very satisfying episodes that leave me really excited to see where we go for next season. Any of the last things you wanted to touch on, or points that Sarah asked us to raise?
Well, she really liked that snake, Morley. I don't know. Did you want to say more about that? Because I don't have much to add about that or the whole Lord of the Rings angle.
Mm-hmm. I would just say I liked both of them. The Lord of the Rings angle, it didn't seem like it was a huge deal. It was just a very clear allusion to a sort of very iconic scene. I thought it was kind of fun that they did it that way. I
mean, I thought it was significant that Morley is a snake, literally.
Oh yeah,
right?
There's a whole temptation aspect to it for sure. I just thought Morley was, first of all, feels very fitting to the nature of the planet we were discussing, where it's all dark and gritty and scary, but also kind of cute. I thought Morley fit that very well, and it was just it was a nice little moment of levity, but also it helped to remind us of the just brutality of Savage Opress. You know, because on the one hand, we get the story about like a guy looking for his brother, but also like a guy willing to kill everybody in his way to go look for his brother. Do you know what I mean by the phrase "rescue the cat"?
No, but did you just hear our cat?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Nor do I think it needs rescuing, but if I'm wrong, tell me. It's a phrase that gets used in screenwriting and stuff like that. And it's the idea of that if you want to establish someone's a hero, then in the first act you have to see them rescue the cat. You know, they have to do some nice, sweet thing. And I often talk about kind of a version of that, which is like, in order to show that they're a villain, you have to show them kill the cat. You know, you have to show them like being willing to do some cruel, unnecessary thing just to show their cruelty. And that's kind of Savage with the worm. You know, I mean, you know, the worm does betray him, so you kind of understand where he's coming from. But I just thought the whole thing was just a nice way to show off like who all the different characters are and where they fit right now.
Okay, come on. This is not even... Morley's race is called Anacondan. I just looked it up.
God, okay. Because there's a million jokes about music that can be made there, I think that's going to be a good place to call it off. So unless you have any other last comments, we'll probably wrap up.
I've toddled in to say that the snake's the best, and I love him very much.
The snake's great. Also, do you want to say a word about your girl Ventress? I know you have big Ventress feelings.
I love Ventress. I love these episodes. I'm sorry I'm sick.
It's okay. I'm so sorry you can't join us for these, but you're with us in spirit.
It's all good. Yeah, Ventress is great. Ventress is awesome. I loved her double dipping with the Boba stuff. That was great.
I know that you are hard at work on your Ventress Obi-Wan fanfic.
It's just, there's so much sass. There's too much sass.
All the Obi-Wan Satine stans are sending us hate, but you know, look,
that's me. I'm sending you hate.
Oh no.
I'm sure there are marriage counselors who are specifically trained in what happens when different people have different OTPs. You know, this can be worked out.
Speaking of shipping, okay, so another one of the characters in Boba Fett's gang that we didn't specifically mention, the female character. Her name is Latz Razi. I might not be pronouncing that correctly.
I think that's
but
correct,
she had like these cool like peacock feather boa. But it was made out of metal, so she would like use it as a weapon. And then in the next episode, even though she was still with Boba's gang, in the next episode when we see Ventress in the bar, they're talking together.
Right.
So that lends more credence to the like months have passed. Maybe she also left Boba's gang. And now we need that like Star Wars Birds of Prey type episode.
Oh, that'd be great. I mean, I do get the feeling at this point that there's just kind of like a, you know, Legion of Doom, the scum and villainy faction, just like they all hang out at bars, they do jobs together, they betray each other, you know, they kind of like, yeah, okay, you got me that time, I'll get you next time, that kind of thing. So, Sarah, thank you so much for arising from your sickbed to join us. Riki, as always, thank you so much for being a part of this. To our fans, what do you all think? What's your take on the dark side? What did we learn in these episodes? What more do you want to learn more about? Let us know. Best way to find us, search for The Ethical Panda. That's my kind of nom de plume in terms of podcasting. Go to theethicalpanda.com, find all of our social media. Best to talk with us on Twitter, on Facebook. You can also go to strandedpanda.com. That's where you'll find my podcasts, as well as every other podcast we have about Star Trek, superhero ethics stuff that I do. A lot of great stuff about the MCU and WandaVision, DC Universe, Star Trek. Lots of great stuff there. So thank you so much. Please check all of that out. Please join in the conversations with us, and have a great day.
Yay. Thank you.
Kenobi.
I heard Riki mentioning the snake, and I was like, oh, gotta go stand for the snake.
Look, I know you don't like the Anacondans, but when it comes to alien names, I don't want none unless it got puns.
Oh, that's good. You have to use that. You have to keep that in.